We got yet another really good play-in tournament game, this time between the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. Primarily going to talk about that game. I only caught part of the Magic game, and I'll talk about the Suns and Trailblazers game when I reflect on the Suns game on Friday. But I want to focus on this game because this was a really enjoyable one. Definitely the best one other than the Hornets Heat game, which I do not think can be topped. But this was an example of a game. This is one of my favorite types of games where just everybody brought it across the board. Pretty much everybody had at least a solid performance, but mostly a really good one. Like, I can't really be too mad at anybody in this matchup at all on either side of the equation. Brook Lopez maybe took a three or two that I did not care for. That's about the extent of it. So, like, this was a group effort from everybody. Still, Stephen Curry, who I'll remind you is 38 years old, did have to go off. He had 35 points, 7 of 12 from outside. He particularly started to heat up in the second half. He went on a huge run. I believe he went on a 7-0 scoring run on his own in the third quarter, and he continued that streak going into the fourth. He was just absolutely electric down the stretch. He only had 8 points in the first half, if I'm not mistaken, or somewhere near that marker. So very great second half for him. And basically the opposite thing happened for Kawhi Leonard, who finished with 21 points, and he had about 14 points at halftime. And he only scored 2 points when I believe it was nearly garbage time, if not that. Garbage time being relative, last few minutes where it looks like the game's probably over. But he didn't score for any point in the fourth quarter, really, where it could have stood the chance to turn the result around. And credit where it is due, and to kind of give Kawhi a little bit of a break here, Golden State's defensive pressure on him was phenomenal. It was phenomenal the whole way through. Of course, Draymond got those 2 big steals late. I know for a fact the second one was off of Kawhi, but I'm trying to remember the specifics of the other one, and I don't know for sure. But Draymond Green, when he had the one-on-one matchup, was what stood out the most. But what primarily messed with Kawhi in this one is they just hard double teamed him basically every time. And the problem with the construction of this Clippers roster, though they did play well, is the spacing is just bad. Chris Dunn can't shoot. Derrick Jones Jr. can't shoot. They combined went 2 for 6 in this one. Brook Lopez went 1 for 6, and Brook, I've mentioned this damn near every time I talk about him, but his spacing value is overrated because teams don't actually really defend him like that from out there. Darius Garland was awesome. That felt vindicating. He was not as awesome late, and he did foul out of the game, but I still think he was a really steady force. Made short work of the Warriors bigs, particularly Porzingis, a couple of times. So very good stuff from him. And Benedict Mathurin, other huge standout for the Clippers. He had the most points of anyone there with 23. Did have 4 turnovers, but 5 for 6 from outside. Mathurin, when his 3 is hitting, is a lot better of a player. It makes up for his deficiencies as a playmaker. It makes up for his not being the strongest defender, even though he had 3 steals in this one. But, when he's doing all of his mid-range stuff and his inside the arc scoring, but the 3 just doesn't exist, the value proposition of his game kind of declines. But 5 for 6 from outside, yeah, he earned that. And that's really kind of carrying in the stat sheet in that department, actually rather significantly, because the Clippers went 14 for 35 from 3. And if you get rid of his, that means they went 9 for 29, which is basically right around 30. Not me doing math on camera right now. Yeah, that's 31%. So they shot 40%, and it's entirely because of Mathurin. 1 for 6 for Kawhi, 1 for 4 for Jones, 1 for 6 for Lopez. But yeah. On the Warriors end, as I mentioned, a lot of players stepped up. Stood out to me the most was Porzingis, because I said this when they traded for him. Porzingis is getting here just too little too late. It reminds me of when Danilo Gallinari was on the Clippers after they had to blow that team up, and it was that weird interim between the Lob City era and the Kawhi Paul George era, and it was man, Danilo Gallinari is really good. If only he was here when the Clippers were desperate for a starting small forward for a very long period of time. Porzingis is like that in that he absolutely is just the perfect center for this team. Like if you could guarantee me going into this year, if you guaranteed me Porzingis was healthy and Jimmy Butler never tears his ACL, you could convince me this team is at least a B tier contender because Porzingis just fits that well. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter. He's a really good rim protector. Not a great rebounder, but the Warriors have always found success with a rebounding by committee type approach, given the small ball history with this team. So it would be a little bit disappointing that he can't rebound super well to make that like an extra huge advantage, but it also wouldn't be as big of a problem as it can be on other teams. And offensively, outside of the 3-point shooting, he crushes mismatches. He's a good post player. He's a strong finisher. More than one play in this game where he just like cut at the perfect time and Draymond found him. So yeah, Draymond had 9 assists in this one. A lot of them were to Porzingis on a cut and things of that nature. So Porzingis, big standout. Guy Santos is another huge standout. You might be taken aback by that if you had not catched what he was putting up the last couple of games for the Warriors. I'm not going to sit here and act like I watched all that many of them, but I believe he had a 30-point game in there. Yeah, I always thought that he played within the Warrior system well, but he wasn't necessarily a special player within it, just that he understood it. But it seems like he's gotten better as a shooter, as a finisher, as a cutter, as a decision maker. He even has a little bit more ball handling and playmaking chops than you would originally expect. 5 assists, 5 turnovers too, but still, he definitely has upside as a role player. I believe he's averaged like 16-ish for the last like 20-something, 30-something games. So I don't know how much it means at this point to have a role player with a lot of upside in a longer term window when you have such a short term window to make this work with Stephen Curry, but it's still something. It's definitely a silver lining in this otherwise really depressing season from the Golden State Warriors. I also want to highlight Pods. Credit where it is due. He played quite well in here. 17.7 rebounds. 2 of them were offensive rebounds. And Al Horford, also 14 points in 23 minutes, 4 for 7 from outside, hit a really big 3-pointer late when the Warriors were starting to swing the score back their way in the 4th quarter. I believe he hit the shot that brought it to a 1-possession game, if I'm remembering that correctly. So really good stuff from Al Horford, really good stuff from Pods, really good stuff from Porzingis, really good stuff from Santos. On the Warriors end in terms of the role player stuff, I would even say that in the Clippers case, Derrick Jones Jr. played really well. He had 13 points in 23 minutes. Brook Lopez put up 17. John Collins put up 11 points in 21 minutes. Benedict Mathurin with 23. Like, this truly was a team effort on both sides. The Clippers just so happened to get the worst performance out of their star player. So, like, obviously, at the end of the day, what your star player did define this, but you could also define it based on the lines of like the Warriors defense on Kawhi Leonard just being really, really strong and really undeniable. It wasn't like Kawhi Leonard was out here making a shitload of mistakes. It's not like he was out here missing a bunch of shots. It was just hard for him to even get in the position to shoot the ball to begin with. He even took a couple of pull-ups in the 4th quarter that I was like, yeah, you kind of took that at an awkward angle. And he did it only because getting a fadeaway at an awkward angle was the only way that he was actually going to generate space. So, yeah, the Clippers, everything would suggest that they should have won this game. Just last couple of months, they have been a leaps and bounds better team than the Warriors. They've been one of the better teams in the NBA since the turn of the calendar year, but this is the nature of the play-in. This is the nature of single elimination. They are a better team. Like, if this was a series, I think the Clippers would probably win in 5, but maybe 6. But that's not, it's a single game elimination, and that's what adds to the excitement of it. I will say, though, I think that the Clippers were the only team that had any shot in hell of bothering the Thunder in round 1. I don't think the Warriors or the Suns have what it takes to even make that team flinch, even make that team lose one game. Kawhi Leonard being able to go Super Saiyan in the playoffs and just be a fucking robot who puts up 40 points without breaking a sweat. That factor, I think, could have taken one game away from the Thunder, maybe even 2 potentially, if like Darius Garland is also on a heater. Although, given him being a small guard and playing the Thunder as a small guard, essentially being walking into a lion's den of just like terrifyingly good perimeter defenders. Besides for that, they probably would have been bad for him, to be honest. But as for the future of the Clippers, I mean, I think there's a real shot that Kawhi Leonard ends up being a Golden State Warrior. That's been rumored. I think the fit makes a lot of sense. The timeline of it all makes a lot of sense. Like, there's not going to be a lot of teams interested in investing in Kawhi Leonard at this age with his injury history, with his contract, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure you know that whole spiel. And Kawhi Leonard's, because there's not going to be a lot of young teams that want to do that who are potential contending level, well, he might as well go to an older team that will want him, that will use him, that will still have a potential window, but will not feel like they're risking anything by going after him. Like a young contender, young being relative to what the Warriors are, could view Kawhi as too risky, whereas the Warriors, it's like, what else would he have to lose at this point to trade for him? So I think the Clippers, I don't think that Kawhi Leonard will be back. I think there is a very real chance that this is the last game we have watched of Kawhi Leonard. It's not to say that's a guarantee by any stretch, but it's hard to see any other outcome at this point. I don't think that there'll be a playoff level team next year. There's just, the role players here are not good enough. The shooting is poor. You're playing a 900-year-old man at center. It's not good. It's probably wraps there. But yeah, I will probably be discussing that more in another video. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.